I will be reading from Acts chapter 28, the B clause of verse 14 and verse 15. And listen to what it says. It says, "And so we went toward Rome. And from there, when the brethren heard about us, they came to meet us as far as Appii Forum and the Three Taverns. When Paul saw them, he thanked God and took courage." And that's what I want to use as my subject. Thank God and take courage. In this 8th month of August, in spiritual numerology, the number 8 is the number of new beginnings. And those of you that have relocated to new cities, started new jobs, launched new businesses, if you're in a new relationship or marriage, or if you've launched a new exercise regimen, or if you joined a new church or spiritual community, if you moved into a new residence, acquired a new vehicle, or even if you have become new parents of a child or children, whatever your achievements, whatever your attainments may be in this season, I want to begin by saying congratulations and may the Lord bless you. I'm sure it was a challenging journey. You had to overcome some obstacles, but you made it. You've arrived. And now that you're currently occupying this place and space in your life, I want to encourage you to do two things. Thank God and take courage. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18 says, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning us." And when we give thanks, we simply offer gratitude and appreciation to God for his ever-abiding being and blessing in our lives, because we would not be who we are, we would not be able to do what we do, we would not be able to have what we have if it wasn't for God, who is our divine source, our sole provider, and supplier of all of our needs. Every moment, movement, and memory in our lives is all because of God who makes it possible. Then I would also encourage you to take courage. The word take is the Greek word labano, and it means to claim and secure or procure for oneself, to lay hold and possess as your own, to reach after, to strive to obtain. And then we have the word courage, which is starsos in Greek. It means to be bold, confident, to be of good cheer, and to be daring. And when you know manifested blessings are meant for you, you have to seize them regardless of the opposition that you face. Because you can't conquer opposition unless you first confront opposition. And you have to begin to rely upon the divine wisdom and the creativity that's within you in order to maneuver and navigate and lay hold of what belongs to you. And when that begins to happen, there will be divine signs that will appear to help you stay focused on reaching your goal. In this text, Paul the Apostle was determined to go to Rome to be vindicated before Nero the Emperor of crimes that were laid against him by the Jewish religious hierarchy in Jerusalem. He was simply preaching the gospel of Christ, in which salvation is revealed in the heart of humanity without the Mosaic law. He was accused of blasphemy, insurrection, and the like. He stood before his own Jewish peers, the Sanhedrin Council. He stood before governors Felix and Festus, and also stood before King Agrippa. By the time he got to Caesarea, he and 276 other men, they boarded a ship, they sailed to Rome for 2 weeks, and they faced a hurricane called Euroclydon. It damaged the ship, but their lives were saved. And they arrived on an island called Melita, and they were a few miles away from the island. So there were men who swam to shore, and those who couldn't swim, they floated on boards and broken pieces of the ship to arrive to the island safely. Now, eventually they had to board another ship in order to make it to their destination. Now, they did arrive in Rome. And if there's anything you can thank God for, it is because you have arrived when it didn't look promising that you would arrive, based on what you had to face to get there. But you had a promise from God. And so what do you do when you have a promise from God? You go through the process of the promise. You deal with the problems that go with the promise. And it looks like the promise isn't looking promising. Paul and his company could have died on their journey, but it was divinely ordered for them to live because Paul had heard from God. That's the answer. When your promise doesn't look promising, what do? When you deal with the process and the problems, remember that you've heard from God. And there was an angel that came to Paul. An angel of God came to Paul and told him that the ship would be destroyed in the storm, but their lives would be delivered from the storm. And the hurricane that was sent by evil forces to annihilate them was the very tool that the Lord used to accelerate them into their purpose, vision, and destiny. Keep in mind that Paul's trip to Rome was delayed for 3 months after the hurricane. Delays are designed for development, for you to get stronger in mind and spirit for this new season in your life. And you have to learn to meditate on the signs that you've been given, that this is the direction that you need to go. And you have to keep in mind that delays eventually expire. Verse 14 of Acts 28 says, so we went to Rome. So in order for them to have went to Rome, Acts 21:19, Paul said, I must also see Rome. Acts 23:11, the Lord told him, you must bear witness in Rome. Acts 28:14 says, so we went toward Rome. And then Acts 28:16 says, we came to Rome. Verse 14 says, we went toward Rome. Verse 16 says, we came to Rome. You have to keep moving forward. But in order for you to move forward, you have to meditate forward while you're going through your delays. You have to make up your mind, forward ever, backward never, because this is my season of increase and supply. And in closing, God will give you supernatural speed for any delays that may have occurred and incurred in your life. You have to learn to keep trekking in a progressive direction. And verse 15 says that when Paul saw the brethren, God will put men and women in your life that will be helpful and resourceful, who will be willing to receive you when you arrive. A welcoming delegation. As Paul moved toward Rome, the brethren moved toward him because their destinies had to collide. You have to leave the people who were rejecting you so you can latch on to the brethren who will receive you. And it says that the brethren went as far as Apiforum. Apiforum is a small town in Italy about 40 miles from Rome, where a major market was situated. And then it says the 3 taverns. This speak of huts or wooden walled buildings that were signposts for Paul and his company to be found. You will never enter into your new season alone. The Lord will provide you a support system that will favor you and help you move forward in your life. And it says, and when Paul saw, when this apostle was able to discern that he had divine help and support that had arrived through the brethren, he could breathe a sigh of relief. He knew that the arrival was worth all the challenges that had incurred during this trip. When he thanked God, it was the Greek word Eucharisto. It means he felt grateful, and he actively expressed it from the inside out in heaven's direction. Thank God and take courage and have an auspicious August. We bid you peace.